Well, how did you go with that? Let's go through my sample solution and I'll show you how I did it. There are of course no correct answers to this. If you did it significantly different to me, I don't really mind, just so long as you adhered to the specification from the last module. Here's my sample solution. I've called it Contacts. You'll find that on the CD in the Chapter 4 folder. It's actually in a subfolder of that called Course Project. Let's go through it line by line. Now we start with the first line, which is of course the shell interpreter. We're specifying that we want this script to be run every time using the Bourne shell. Now of course we put some little comments in to say why we've done exactly what we've done, a nice big heading as well for our script. Now right at the top of the file, this is a good practice to get into, I've actually defined the name of the file that I'm going to be using to store my data. That means that at any time I can open up this script, have a look at the top of the file, and determine straight away that the file data is being stored in a file called names.dat. I can tell that because I've put a comment there to that effect. And down below I'm actually going to use that variable fname when I go to write out the data. Now the next bit is actually quite simple. It's just an echo and a read, and an echo and a read, and an echo and a read. I have made it all nicely right aligned here where the colons all line up with each other, but you don't have to do that of course. And then we read all that information out, then we write the details to the text file. Now this is probably the most tricky line in the whole script. We echo this information out. We echo that variable, then a colon, then the second variable, then a colon, then the third variable, all 6 variables with colons in between each one. And I use the double greater than sign because I want to append to the end of the file. And remember that one of the features of the double greater than sign is that if the file does not exist, it gets created nevertheless. And what file am I writing to? Well, I'm writing to a file. It's not called fname. The name of the file is stored in the variable called fname. So what happens here is the shell reads this line and goes, there's a $sign there. That means that this bit here, fname, is the name of a variable that contains the name of the file that I'm going to write this information out to. So you'll find that this information actually gets written out to names.dat. Then we move along and show what's currently in the file. Now I'm going to do this as a grouping exercise here. I'm going to do 3 little echo statements. The echoes on lines by themselves are just for spacing purposes, just to make it look a little prettier on the screen. Here are the current contacts in the database, and then cat the file, and pipe all of that to more. I pipe it to more because there may actually be 300 contacts in the database if we run this program often enough. It's just a little precaution that's good to get into the habit of thinking of things like that. And then finally, we display how many there are. Now this I've done in a clever little way, I guess, using backwards quotes and a little blank line there just for neatness. There are, now I've catted the file and piped the results to wc-l. Now if you ran that on a line by itself, on a shell login line by itself, that would tell you just one thing. It would output a number, and that number would be the number of lines in the file called in this case $fname, which would be names.dat. Now because of the way we've structured our file, the number of lines in the file is exactly the same number as the number of contacts in the database, because there's 1 contact per line. So this will actually output a line like, there are 16 contacts in the database, hopefully. So that's it, that's the last line in the file. So let's run that and see if it works. Now I've made the script executable and I've called it contacts, so let's run contacts. Please enter the following contact details. Okay, Mark, Virtue, call it 12 Smith Street, Smithville, State, well I'm in Queensland at the moment, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here are the current contacts in the database, and then there's the names that I just typed in, separated by colons, which is very nice, and I put little blank lines around it so it makes it easier to read. There are 1 contacts in the database. Now, while that may not be grammatically correct, it is indeed technically correct. So I can run it again. Let's just run it a second time, and this time it'll be Fred Jones. Oops. Oh well, I hope that turns out okay. Address 123 Hope Street, Hopeville. I'll put Hopeville in California, and now we have 2 contacts in the database, and the Jones surname did turn out okay. That uphat H sign was treated as a backspace. So mine was working. How about yours? You can go back obviously and have a look at the CD and open up my sample solution there, and you can copy and paste bits of my code into your solution if you want to. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 4.